Welcome back to our channel USA's Dark Secrets. If you are here for raw, real stories of betrayal and hard choices, stay with us and don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started. The house sparkled with cheerful decorations, the kind that once symbolized happiness and unity. The golden "Happy Birthday" banner hung prominently above the mantel, and the scent of vanilla from the freshly baked cake wafted through the room. Rebecca adjusted the placement of the balloons for the third time, trying to suppress the unease that churned within her. Everything looked perfect on the surface, but the cracks in her world were growing wider. Her phone buzzed, startling her. She glanced at the screen and hesitated before answering. It was David. "David, not now," she whispered, her voice tense. "Rebecca, I just need to know, are you really doing this?" David's voice carried urgency. "I told you," she replied, her voice barely audible. "I'll figure it out after tonight. Just trust me." "Figure it out?" "You've been saying that for months," David said, frustration clear. "Do you even know what you want? Or are you just trying to keep both of us on a leash?" Rebecca stiffened at his words. "It's not like that," she said defensively. "You don't understand, Daniel and I have a history. This isn't something I can just throw away overnight." "History doesn't mean anything if the present is broken," David shot back. "You're lying to him. And to yourself." The line went silent for a moment, and then he added softly, "Call me when you're ready to be honest, with him and with yourself." Rebecca ended the call, her hands trembling. She put the phone down and turned to the mirror, staring at her reflection. The woman staring back at her looked poised, elegant, and composed. But beneath the surface, she felt like she was crumbling. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. She took a deep breath, plastering a smile on her face as the front door opened. Daniel stepped inside, his presence commanding as always. He held a bouquet of white lilies, her favorite "Happy Birthday." Rebecca exclaimed, rushing to greet him. She wrapped her arms around him, pressing a kiss to his cheek. Daniel hugged her back but lingered for a moment, his face unreadable. "Thanks," he said quietly, his eyes scanning the room. "You went all out." Rebecca stepped back, her smile unwavering. "Of course. It's your special day. You deserve this." Daniel set the flowers on the counter and glanced at her. "You've been busy," he said, his tone neutral. Rebecca's heart raced, but she maintained her cheerful demeanor. "Go sit down. I have a surprise for you." Daniel walked to the couch and sat, his movements deliberate. Rebecca disappeared into the next room and returned with a small, elegantly wrapped box. "Here," she said, handing it to him. "Open it." Daniel unwrapped the gift with care, revealing an expensive watch. He held it up, examining it closely. "It's beautiful," he said finally, his voice calm but distant. "You always know what I like." Rebecca's face lit up. "I thought it was perfect for you." Daniel placed the watch on the table and leaned back. "I got something for you too," he said, his tone measured. Rebecca blinked, surprised. "For me? On your birthday?" He nodded and reached for his briefcase, pulling out a plain white envelope. He handed it to her without a word. "What's this?" she asked, laughing nervously. "Open it," he said simply. Rebecca tore open the envelope, her smile faltering as she read the first line. Her face drained of color. "Divorce papers," she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel's gaze didn't waver. "Yes." Rebecca shook her head in disbelief. "Why?" "Daniel, what's going on?" He leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "I know about David." The air left Rebecca's lungs. "What are you talking about?" "Don't," Daniel said sharply, his voice cutting through the room like a knife. "Last week, I left work early. I thought I'd surprise you. Instead, I saw you at the cafe with him." Rebecca's mind raced back to that day. The laughter, the stolen glances, the moment David had reached for her hand. She had felt a thrill of excitement then, a fleeting escape from the monotony of her marriage. But now, the weight of her actions crashed down on her. "It's not what you think," she said desperately. "I can explain." Daniel's expression remained stony. "Don't insult me, Rebecca. I saw enough. The way you smiled at him, you haven't looked at me like that in years." Tears streamed down her face. "It was a mistake," she pleaded. "I don't even know why it happened. I love you." Daniel's voice broke slightly. "Do you? Because it doesn't feel like it. I trusted you, Rebecca. I thought we were building a life together. Was it all a lie?" "No," she cried. "I made a terrible mistake. Please, don't do this. We can fix it. We can go to counseling." Daniel stood, his face a mask of pain and resolve. "This isn't something you can fix with an apology. I've spent days thinking about this. I deserve better." Rebecca reached for him, but he stepped back. "Daniel, please," she whispered. "Don't walk away." Daniel paused at the door, turning to face her one last time. "Take care of yourself, Rebecca. And take care of him too." With that, he left, the door closing softly behind him. Rebecca stood frozen, the divorce papers clutched in her hands. The festive decorations around her seemed to mock her, their bright colors a stark contrast to the despair that now filled the room. She sank onto the couch, her sobs breaking the heavy silence. David called later that evening, his voice hesitant. "Rebecca, I heard. Are you okay?" Rebecca didn't respond immediately. She stared at the untouched cake, the balloons swaying gently in the corner of the room. "No," she said finally. "I don't think I am." David hesitated. "Do you want me to come over?" Rebecca's grip on the phone tightened. "I don't know. I don't know anything anymore." The conversation ended, and Rebecca was left alone, surrounded by the remnants of a celebration that would never happen. Daniel drove aimlessly through the city streets, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. The rain began to fall, streaking the windshield as if mirroring the turmoil inside him. His mind replayed the moment Rebecca's face fell when she saw the divorce papers. A part of him had wanted her to fight harder, to give him a reason to stay, but another part knew it wouldn't have mattered. Trust, once shattered, was impossible to rebuild. He pulled into a quiet parking lot near a small park where they had once spent a sunny afternoon during their early years together. Back then, their laughter had filled the air as they chased each other through the grass. He had believed those memories would last a lifetime. Now, they felt like scenes from someone else's life. Daniel leaned back in his seat, staring out at the rain-soaked park. His phone buzzed in the cup holder. It was his best friend, Mark. "You okay?" Mark's voice was steady, but the concern was evident. Daniel exhaled heavily. "I did it. I handed her the papers." There was a pause on the other end. "How did she take it?" "She cried," Daniel said quietly. "She begged. But I couldn't. I couldn't stay, Mark. I saw her with him. That image is burned into my mind." "You did the right thing," Mark said firmly. "You deserve better than someone who would betray you like that." "I know," Daniel replied, though his voice wavered. "But knowing it doesn't make it hurt any less." Mark sighed. "It's going to take time, man. But you'll get through this. And when you're ready, you'll find someone who truly values you." "Maybe," Daniel said, though he didn't sound convinced. Underscore 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 underscore. Back at the house, Rebecca sat in the dimly lit living room, her head in her hands. The divorce papers lay on the coffee table, their stark black lettering a cruel reminder of what she had lost. She replayed Daniel's words over and over in her mind. "I deserve better." Her phone buzzed again. It was David. She hesitated before answering. "Rebecca," David began, his voice soft. "I can't stop thinking about you. Are you sure you're okay?" "No," she admitted, her voice raw. "Everything is falling apart, David. I don't know what to do." David hesitated. "You could start over. With me. We could make this work." Rebecca closed her eyes, her heart heavy. "It's not that simple. I hurt him, David. I betrayed him. And for what? A few moments of excitement? I don't even know who I am anymore." "You're someone who deserves to be happy," David said firmly. Rebecca shook her head, even though he couldn't see her. "Happiness doesn't come from destroying someone else's life." David fell silent, and Rebecca realized for the first time how much she had idealized their relationship. What had seemed thrilling and liberating now felt hollow and selfish. "I need time," she said finally. "Time to figure out who I am and what I want. I can't make any promises, David." "Take all the time you need," he said, though his voice carried a hint of resignation. After the call ended, Rebecca stared at the divorce papers again. She thought about the years she and Daniel had shared, the good times, the struggles, the love that had once felt unshakable. She had taken it for granted, and now it was gone. Underscore 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 underscore. In the weeks that followed, Daniel focused on rebuilding his life. He moved into a small apartment across town, the emptiness of the space a stark contrast to the home he had shared with Rebecca. He threw himself into work, spending long hours at the office to avoid thinking about the nights alone. One evening, he received a message from an unfamiliar number. It was Rebecca. "Hi, Daniel. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I hope you're doing okay." Daniel stared at the message for a long time before replying, "Thank you. I hope you're doing okay too." He didn't know what else to say. The wound was still too fresh, the betrayal too deep. Underscore 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 underscore. Rebecca, meanwhile, began attending therapy. For the first time, she confronted the emptiness she had felt in her marriage, not because of Daniel, but because of her own unresolved insecurities. She realized how much she had projected her dissatisfaction onto him, seeking validation in all the wrong places. One day, after a particularly emotional session, she sat down and wrote Daniel a letter. "Dear Daniel, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry for breaking your trust and for hurting you in ways I can never undo. You gave me everything, and I threw it away because I was too blind to see how lucky I was. I'm not writing this to ask for forgiveness, I know I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that I'm trying to be better. You deserve happiness, and I hope you find it, even if it's not with me. Thank you for the years we shared. I will always be grateful for them, Rebecca. She didn't send the letter. Instead, she tucked it away in a drawer, unsure if she ever would. Underscore 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 underscore. Months passed. Daniel found himself smiling more often, even laughing with friends. One evening, he met a woman named Claire at a work event. She was warm, kind, and had an infectious laugh that made him feel lighter. They exchanged numbers, and for the first time in a long time, Daniel felt a spark of hope. Rebecca continued her journey of self-discovery, focusing on rebuilding her life independently. She found solace in painting, something she had abandoned years ago. Her therapist encouraged her to explore her passions, and slowly, she began to feel whole again. Though their paths diverged, both Daniel and Rebecca carried the lessons of their shared past. They learned the value of trust, the importance of communication, and the strength it took to move forward after heartbreak. In the end, life continued, not as they had planned, but in ways that allowed them both to grow. A year passed, and life had reshaped itself for both Daniel and Rebecca, albeit in very different ways. Time had softened the sharp edges of their pain, but neither could entirely escape the echoes of what they had once shared. Daniel found himself thriving in ways he hadn't anticipated. His small apartment, initially a symbol of loneliness, had become a sanctuary. He filled it with plants, books, and art, things he'd never prioritized before. His friendship with Claire deepened, though he remained cautious. She was patient, never pushing him for more than he was ready to give. One evening, as they walked through the park near his apartment, Claire stopped and looked at him. "You seem lighter these days," she said with a smile. Daniel chuckled, running a hand through his hair. "It's been a journey, but I think I'm finally learning to let go of the past." She nodded. "It's not easy. But you're doing it. And for what it's worth, I think you're pretty amazing." Daniel smiled, feeling a warmth he hadn't experienced in a long time. Rebecca, on the other hand, was navigating her own path toward healing. Therapy had become a cornerstone of her life, helping her confront not just the mistakes she had made in her marriage but also the deeper wounds that had driven her actions. One afternoon, while sorting through old boxes in her closet, she came across a photo album from her and Daniel's early years together. She sat on the floor, flipping through the pages. Each photo was a snapshot of happier times, their honeymoon, birthdays, lazy Sundays spent cooking together. Tears welled in her eyes as she realized how much she had taken those moments for granted. She reached for the letter she had written months ago and read it again. This time, she made a decision. She mailed the letter the next day, uncertain if Daniel would even read it, let alone respond. When Daniel received the letter, he hesitated before opening it. He had spent so much time trying to move on, and a part of him feared that reading Rebecca's words might drag him back into the pain he had worked so hard to leave behind. But curiosity won out, and he unfolded the paper. As he read, his emotions shifted from anger to sadness to a strange sense of closure. Her words were raw and honest, acknowledging her faults and expressing a vulnerability he hadn't seen in her before. For the first time, he felt the weight of forgiveness, not just for her, but for himself. He realized that holding on to resentment had only been holding him back. Months later, their paths crossed unexpectedly. It was at a local art gallery where Rebecca was showcasing some of her paintings. Daniel had been invited by a colleague who had no idea of his connection to Rebecca. When their eyes met across the room, there was a moment of silence between them, the world seeming to pause. Rebecca smiled hesitantly, and Daniel nodded in acknowledgement. She approached him cautiously. "Daniel. Hi. I didn't expect to see you here." "I didn't expect to be here," he admitted, glancing at the vibrant paintings on the walls. "These are yours?" Rebecca nodded. "Yeah. It's something I've been working on, to heal, I guess. Daniel studied one of the paintings, a swirling blend of colors that seemed to capture both chaos and peace. They're beautiful, he said sincerely. Thank you, Rebecca replied, her voice soft. How have you been? Better, Daniel said honestly. I've been rebuilding, I guess you could say. And you? Rebecca smiled faintly. Same. It's been a long road, but I'm learning. There was a pause, and then Daniel said, I got your letter. Rebecca's face flushed. I wasn't sure if you'd read it. I did, he said. And, thank you. It meant a lot. It helped. Rebecca exhaled, relief washing over her. I'm glad. I've wanted to say those things for a long time. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared history hanging between them. I'm happy for you, Rebecca said finally. You seem at peace. I think I am, Daniel replied. And I'm happy for you too. These paintings, they're incredible. Rebecca's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Thank you, Daniel. That means more than you know. As they parted ways that evening, there was no bitterness, no lingering resentment, only a sense of mutual understanding and respect. Years later, Daniel and Claire were married in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. He had learned to open his heart again, and the love he shared with Claire was rooted in trust, honesty, and mutual support. Rebecca continued to find success as an artist, her work featured in galleries across the country. She remained single, choosing instead to focus on her art and the life she was building for herself. She often thought of Daniel, not with regret, but with gratitude for the lessons their relationship had taught her. Though their lives had diverged, they each carried a piece of the other with them, a reminder of the pain they had endured, the growth it had sparked, and the resilience that had carried them forward. In the end, their story was not one of loss, but of transformation. Both had found their own version of happiness, proving that even after the deepest heartbreak, life goes on, and sometimes, it becomes more beautiful than you ever imagined.